Select Poetry Series. His short plays, Harvest, Shuffling, and the Red and Yellow Quartet all debuted in the 60 million plus theater Spring Playwright Festival. His stage play, Live at Excelsior, was a finalist for the Images Theater Playwright Award and is being made into a full-length film. He has been published in many journals and anthologies, won numerous poetry contests and book finalist awards, and rather than me reading all of his acclaims, I will let his poetry speak for itself. Let's give a warm welcome to Indigo Moor.
Oh my God. That does not happen to me that much. Normally it's the other way around. What's that? Either one works for me. Is this? Can they hear me? Can they hear me? Oh no, I'm not going to hold it. Definitely not. All right, how y'all doing tonight? All right, my name is Indigo Moor. I'm going to be reading from both of my previously published books and a little from my new manuscript, In the Room of Thirsts and Hungers. And thank you, Linda, for printing that up for me. There came a time when I realized I was getting these text messages from this person. And at the time, it was back when everyone still had the plans where you got charged for every text that you received. But I had no idea who this person was, no clue whatsoever. But I didn't want to say anything because whoever this person was, they were living the most incredible life I'd ever heard in my life. And it took me 3 months before I got up the nerve to ask who the hell it was. Messages from the ether. Your first text put you in the Decameron, tracking Bokasha through love's sickness, deep moist erotica. You leave no name, your number unrecognizable. Weeks later, I'm in City Lights, coaxing Jane Shore to raise the trapeze artist once more from concrete and straw. I read that you are hours away before winging above my head, on your way to Hong Kong through fog and spring. That night, I dreamed dragon smoke, scripting my name against a flame-red sky. A month later, Man on Wire traps you between two towers, swayed to a man-made chasm over, excuse me. I'm in bed, nursing a knee swollen around an ACL stretched to disbelief. You say the petite left you dizzy, mind spiraling unhinged above the rubble that will be decades later, dragging glass and ruin through fog spring. 3 months pass before I ask who you are, careful of the fragility of names and faces made concrete and easily shattered. It's Eva, you reply, from Boston, from the Fog Museum, reaching out through you through static and distance. Eva, my friend, as I write this poem, Boston should be past the flowering season, heat hovering above the Charles, dragonflies rustling. I imagine you sitting lotus style on the north bank, your hair tied into a knot that trails down your back. You lean over your phone, concentrating on every letter and symbol before winging them across ether. One summer, I could only hold my children in these poems. I thought us cursed, a witch tormenting our names. Scoliosis rioted along my youngest daughter's spine. I slept for a week beneath gray walls and ceilings, 7 sunsets spiraling over the horizon, while in another room, my oldest daughter, with her first son sliced from her, shuffled gingerly over coals and broken glass, from bed to the bathroom, holding both our hearts, our hands in such small hearts. shrunken into a corner, my son, he and his guitar strapped to a long-sung tonality, trying to ratchet down a single note for loneliness. In my worst dreams, we are Icarus, winging across a rusted desert. Next scene, they are gut-shot. 1, 2, 3 black wings flailing against broken air. Composite scream vibrating through my bones. I turn, not looking in hope to be Father, God, Savior, but I carry 2 cursed hands that can't possibly hold the explosions blossoming in my chest. In my best dreams, our fingernails actually touch before we all fall. Connie Post, who used to be the Poet Laureate of Livermore, invited me down to this ekphrastic contest. And it wasn't necessarily a contest, just an opportunity for poets to come down and write poems about local artists' work. And she and I are friends, so she knew I had a love of Monet. And she told me there's this great Monet that you can write about, and I was, of course, all excited. What she didn't tell me is that it wasn't a picture by Monet, but a picture of Monet. She seemed to leave that detail out, making sure I drive the distance down there, but it worked. But Katie Kalk, the artist who did this incredible piece of Monet, and normally you see Monet just larger than life and just this great figure, but she decided to paint him late in life, and I found the challenge something too much to pass up. Veiled Vision from the acrylic by Katie Kalk. Anchored, as his tired bones insisted, to the chairs sunken into a cashmere coat with thick raised collar. You had no choice but to swirl his weight onto the wicker armrest. You give us Monet, subtracted by everything he no longer is. Cataracts stacking behind shades, shrunken to a skull plastered beneath the brim of a gaudy sun hat. No wonder he succumbed to this pose. Camille, Alice, and Jean are all dead, fading like his days and his eyesight. Gently, he rocks the cottage before him and the bridge after off the focus of the canvas. I can almost see you, empirically calling brilliant strokes and heroic lights to take arms against the dying of Claude's seasons, but not even your signature, resembling a Roman numeral 9, can resurrect feline litheness into his body. Of the futility he must sense in you, the bemused tilt of his head says all we need to know. Beneath the light-soaked beard, our lips pressed to keep us from the secret that you are desperate to protect us from. A day will come for each of us when we are nothing more than still life in someone else's eyes. Every once in a while, someone gives me a request for an interview, or I got something that was slightly different about a month ago. Someone wanted to write a paper on me for their class. And it's nice to hear how bold students can be, because they were looking at my first book, and I'd actually sent her a copy of some of the poems I've been working on for my next manuscript. And she basically, not couching it too much, basically said, "Wow, how do you explain how much better you are now?" Whew. Which stung a little bit. But I thought about it later and said, well, it could have been the reverse, couldn't it? And I'm actually starting in the middle. I'm going to go to the end and then go to the beginning, and then you can see for yourself. But she did also notice that the theme of brothers comes up a lot in my work, and the theme of family, but mostly brothers. And I want to read a poem now called The Homecoming. It's a 3-part poem, and it's an ekphrastic poem also. It's a series of poems that all come from one painting, Aaron Douglas's Aspect of Negro Life, number 62. And in my understanding of the painting, you see a man leaving the South, going to the North to join the Harlem Renaissance, be irrevocably damaged and changed by what happens to him there, and then attempting to return to the farm. And the poem, like I said, it's in 3 parts, the voice of the prodigal son returning, thus his brother, and then his father. The homecoming, prodigal. I dream of sweet grass and grunting tractors, how the South can linger unscratchable. Mama still dreams an oak anchors my spine. She can't see there's rot hollowing the flesh. Memories clutch too tight, twist to kudzu and crabgrass. The creek water stills and becomes stagnant. It's Mama's fault I've come home. Not seeing the horror I've become, she'll let me in. Brother, little bro, you come home scratching track scars, jagged symbols. Even a blind man can trace your history. I hear the Limehouse refuses more of the ghosts you carry. So you store them, bundled up with box twine, a dry tinder to spark the grief you spread. Looks like you still slave to the hate of us. This farm, scorched and cratered, remembers you. I prophesied your return from the shadows on the field, curses darkening the sky. Father, my son, I wish your back unbroken from the weight in your eyes, body a question mark of sorrow, hostage to past laments. I wish that black sheep could be free of mythos. I wish your fingers clean of tangled knots, the one heirloom you didn't steal from me. I forgive the moon for lighting your path. I forgive the good Lord for not troubling your compass. I forgive the train's whistle for trumpeting you home. I even forgive the street lines for pointing you back here. So I guess I should be happy that she was happy with what she was reading in this future manuscript. It's entitled In the Room of Thirsts and Hungers. And I won't go to, I'm sure I'll be running short of time. I can't get too much into the backstory, but Paul Robeson, one of the greatest Americans ever to live, in my opinion, he was also an actor besides being NFL star, All-American, valedictorian of Princeton, and we're talking in the early 1900s. He was one of the first black men to ever go to Princeton. To Rutgers. He was born in Princeton, New Jersey, and he was an absolutely amazing man. He also went on to become a film star, opera singer, famous actor. The one role that he is known for is his role in Othello. And of course, at that time, there was no way they were going to allow a black man to kiss a white woman on stage, much less strangle her at the end. So he became famous for this role overseas. I was reading a biography or characterization of what I thought was Paul Robeson at once, and it was actually a characterization of Othello. And it really became clear to me how similar these two characters were in their lives, everything they went through, and eventually their downfalls, which you could argue were brought on by themselves in their own dogmatic pursuit of their own virtues. So I came up with this idea that Paul Robeson and Othello were really cousins, and they should probably write to each other about their days. So, the first missive from Othello, actually it's the second one from Othello to Paul after he has written to him. I am a Moor, the dark pearl and the emerald of Venice, Alhambra's last shadow haunting the white capped Adriatic. Un capitano Moro, masthead of the Moorish dynasty, immolating on the cross. 10 years ago, cousin, I buried Islam in my village as the 40-year clock drained from my people's blood. I forged my headdress to a sword, aching to slice the Spanish legions that were festering the mountains. In my fervor, I prayed that Muhammad would exalt our scimitars to guns, harden our leather armor to steel. But that night, our houses erupted in the gloaming, and my noble bracelets were dull to chain me to a wall. Cousin Paul, I am told that you were in Venice one night before my return from the battle. If only the victory had quickened my horses and I had chance to force my lips to thine, I would have stolen your poison and blocked your return to America. That eagle's wing is a death call over your eyes. Paul, you think me cursed? Cursed more than you, cousin? The ebon lion that suckles on Venice's pale tit? Doubly cursed is the man who will take up a sword against his own, whose smile draws another Muslim to a kiss and then snakes a knife through his ribs. We both donned another land's cloak, but the Judas hole is always gaped and your people suffer as well as mine. I seek my fortune in England no longer. There are no more taboos troubling my waters, no voodoo to shuffle along to. Before the Ottomans draw a noose around Cyprus, go home. My God is not yours. Islam is curled waiting in every battle's and waiting in every Muslim's unspilled guts. The time to nigh is large. It is time for us to be the multitudes. Here, aircraft spotters have dawned against Hitler's planes, not Stalin's. The war is not yours. It is not mine. Go home and claim your flock. Remember, cousin, cursed is the Prometheus who brings water instead of flame. Cursed is the Moses carrying a poisoned staff. All right, I've done way more talking than I intended to. How am I doing on time? Let's go with 5. I want to hear some of these open mic people. All right, so back to the beginning. Taproot, which I'm still very proud of. Despite what her essay writer would say, I have no idea what it says, actually. Actually, she didn't say anything bad about it. She was just noticing growth, and it was actually a very good opportunity to talk about it. I think that there is such thing as gateway books, and these are poems and books that you have to write before you're going to have a chance to get to anything else. And this was mine. It chronicles two brothers, I know, he's surprised, two brothers who have been estranged for years, and one brother receives the phone call that his brother is dying. And so he has to basically confront everything that he has left the South for. And now that I've built you up to that, let's go backwards with the last poem, Pull. I am told it was moonlight that ripened your failing heart until it finally cracked, sent the clock hand spinning off your flesh. I was a coward, still 3,000 miles away, convincing myself that if I came at all, I could never catch the dying hour. Forgive me, brother. For decades, your name has stretched my tongue to breaking, but love and pain often anguish logic. Long ago, on a night like this, I watched Uncle rocket a coyote skyward with a fistful of buckshot. It slammed to the ground, twisted, skidding across the grass. Somehow, it didn't know it was dead. Its front legs pawed the air as if leveled by nothing more than errant moonlight. Chicken feathers lined its muzzle. It muled, eyes tunneling through me to the underbrush where its mate stood, now cross-haired down Uncle's barrel and already dead by every book and clock. The mate stood mesmerized, not knowing that in this world, every fool carries a twin heart. Bang! I shouted, and the underbrush went wild with the mates running. Still, if animals have souls, 2 died that night. Uncle cursed me under the killing sky. Why, boy? You know she'll hit the coop later. Why did you do that? This is my understanding of the fear and silence of these wounded nights. The moon snares in the sweet spot of the throat, and everything and everyone that lives on is trapped in love. All right, 2 poems left. One of them is very short. It's actually the title poem of the book. The book is Taproot, and that is the one I have for sale over there for $12. I was doing a study of the blues as I was trying to prepare the section of this book that's entitled The Score. The book is divided up into sections as if it's a play. And I made an interesting discovery that the great blues musician and singer, Muddy Waters, grew up on a spot on the Mississippi plains where the Mississippi River used to cover before they dammed it up. And if I can find it, I'll read it to you. Taproot. Concrete and steel drew the Mississippi back like a fist. Scythe blades swung through dry harvests. Plows turned soil hard enough to raise the blues. Muddy Waters sprang whole, dry heaved from the knotted center of a plankwood shack. He shook himself loose of blood, dirt, moonshine, the ass-dark end of a mule, and was gone. Since, twisters have spun the shack round, bent its insides out, till it vomited its secrets on boot-dust roads. Now tourists use splintered slivers of history as toothpicks. A little ways down the road, you can squander a week's pay, sleep in an old slave shack, spend a day picking cotton, smile for pictures. The Mississippi used to cover these parts until they dammed it up, held its tongue like words you choke back in church to keep your insides from escaping. Staring across dusty fields, you can ache the need for river, almost drown in the longing for waters that won't come here no more. And I will end with the very first poem, Back Through the Storm Door. I left the South broken, a busted wing and a crooked eye. Still, I wake mornings with the taste of honeysuckle on my tongue. The phone rings, voices weary with traveling, wires weighed down with crows in thick heat. I know it's the South, calling me to christen the born or bury the dead. Lord, I'm still addicted to his touch. He doesn't have long, Indigo. If you're going to come, it better be soon. In bed hours later, my mind still taloned to the phone's bad news. Weed, codeine, scotch. I've ingested enough fog and brain ash to black out the moon, but the crucible of the past is relentless, grinding behind eyelids. Memories spark wild along the nerve's telegraph. The lens focuses backward and the mind grays decades. I dream my past, a fragmented play, spliced together with rawhide ties and silk thread. It grows claws and jumps the stage, a beast my hands don't know how to tame. There is no balm for the past dull ache. When the blue jay rolls up his song, the whole damn world spins down on me. Falling back through the door, I'm broken again. Thank you very much.